The next speaker is Dr. Deep Arora. He is a student of PGI Chandigarh, currently head of Department of Anesthesia, Max Super Specialty Hospitals, New Delhi. And his special interest is ultrasound-guided regional blocks. And he is going to talk on interscalene and subclavian perivascular blocks, how ultrasound is advantageous. Dr. Deep Arora, please.
He said it's possible. Yeah.
No, it is possible. We'll take this out because this is his computer. No?
आपको बोला था ना सुबह. You said it. I asked you the first thing in the morning. I said Apple. You said yes. Specifically asked you.
You have a pen drive or something?
No. Dr. OP, you'll have to help me. Dr. Om Prakash. Backup. No, it seems he can't connect this Apple. It doesn't matter. I have a backup.
Well, by the time this gets going, couple of things that I would want you to know from my side. We have a poster rounds during the lunch break, just right when it begins. So people who have presented posters, I request them to wait near their posters. Dr. Lakshmi Vas and Dr. TVS Gopal are going to look into it and give their opinions. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Dr. Vishadi. It's standing room only. Good morning. Speaks volumes of the popularity of ultrasound guidance, how it has restarted the interest in regional anesthesia, and I'm sure in equal measure is the capability of Dr. Vishali to hold such a grand conference. So, over the next 10 minutes, ultrasound guidance for interscalene and subclavian perivascular block. Dr. Bala has so very well taken us through the anatomy. Just to emphasize a couple of points that what we are blocking in the interscalene are the roots and the trunks, and for subclavian perivascular we look at the trunks and the divisions. These are the dermatomes, as we all know. These are the two approaches that I'll be talking about. Coming to the first one, the interscalene brachial plexus. It is used for any procedure performed around the shoulder up to the proximal humerus. For anything below that, it is inadequate, as has been told. Various approaches, nearly 90 approaches have been described in the literature for interscalene block. And what we are talking about today is transmiddle scalene ultrasound guided approach. When we put the probe, the high frequency linear probe at the level of cricoid in the neck, with the neck turned to the opposite side, this is what we see. The sternocleidomastoid tapering away, underneath the jugular and the carotids coming in, and lateral to that, the two scaleni with the trunks and roots in the groove. So this is how we start. Place the probe at the cricoid, identify the arc of trachea, slide the probe laterally and posteriorly, see the sternocleidomastoid coming up. And the other way is that we start from the supraclavicular region, identify the subclavian artery there, and then look at the bunch of grape kind of picture, the the plexus that is available or is visible there, and trace it up to the interscalene groove near the apex. This is a video. This is how we scan the neck. Starting from the trachea, the thyroid, the great vessels are there, and these two are the two muscles, the anterior and the middle scaleni, with the stack of roots and trunks appearing in the groove. And this is the other approach that I spoke to you about. Starting from the supraclavicular region, We trace it up, and again the stack is formed. We trace it back down, go in the region of the subclavian artery. This will happen in the next few seconds, and see the appearance of a bunch of grapes. Yeah, there it is. There. Yeah. There's the subclavian. So how do we do the block? This is the still picture showing you the stack placed between the anterior and the middle scalene. Needle approaching in plane under ultrasound guidance, the interscalene approach. And this is how we do it. In plane approach, high frequency probe. You see the needle. Oh, I didn't know that. Thank you. Yeah. So that's a needle tinkling the now, and we are injecting the drug. You can see the local anesthetic spreading there as a hypoechoic pool or dark pool, which tends to bathe the nerves and the trunks and the roots. And the advantage of using ultrasound is that we can withdraw the needle instead of doing a single injection technique. As you see the needle going back and then being redirected to cover the other roots and trunks as well. So this is the main advantage of using ultrasound guidance. Everything is happening under vision, it's live, and you get a very positive feedback. You know exactly where you're going, your target is there in front of you, you know what all not to mess around with, so the collateral damage is minimized. In the conventional approach, what we miss out is median nerve in 12% of cases, ulnar and medial cutaneous nerve of forearm in 28%, median cutaneous nerve of arm and intercostal brachial in nearly 50% of cases in the single needle technique. With ultrasound guided multiple injection technique, we can ensure that this doesn't happen. Coming to the subclavian perivascular. This is one block that can do it all for all procedures, it is said, to be performed on the arm. That's why it's also called the spinal of the arm. It has a quick onset. Indication you already know, but for shoulder also, it is sometimes people say those who are not confident with interscalene, we can get away doing a good supraclavicular subclavian perivascular block, provided we give a larger volume. And of course, then we run the risk of involving the phrenic nerve. The same, we'll come to the complications later. Now here, the corner pocket, this is the concept which has come up in recent times. This is what we need to target if we want to make sure that the ulnar is properly blocked. This is the sonoanatomy when we place the same high frequency probe in the supraclavicular region. See the two bellies of the muscles getting attached to the first nerve, and the subclavian artery and the brachial plexus coming out of the triangle and going into the axilla. Same thing how we did it in the interscalene approach. This is the sonoanatomy. The subclavian artery is there. The two muscle bellies are there. Subclavian perivascular, brachial plexus is lying there as a bunch of grapes. And this is the corner pocket between the first rib, the pleura, subclavian. And this is where we have to be very cautious when we are doing this kind of block. You can see the needle coming in plane technique. Let's see if this runs here. Okay, again the needle is coming in plane. You can see it approaching the bunch of grapes. That is the plexus there next to the artery. The needle is coming there. That's the movement of the tissue gives you some idea where the needle is. So you're supposed to go near the group of nerves and start injecting. Preferably target this area first, so that when you inject some volume here, it tends to lift the whole plexus over, rather than injecting first at the top and pushing the whole plexus down behind the first rib. So it tends to make it easier, and it also tends to give you a more complete block. You see the volume coming in any moment now. That's a needle approaching the, your plexus nearly there now. Sorry. To complete that, this is from a handheld camera because somehow the sonosite could not capture the rest. It has a limit of 1 minute of recording the clip. So I guess that got over, took us that much time. Now this is the injection of the local anesthetic, the corner pocket, and then at the top. I'm sorry for the poor quality, but this is, as I said, a handheld camera focusing on the same screen, same patient, the same procedure. The foremost complication is hemidiaphragmatic paresis or paralysis, which is said to occur in 100% of interscalene plexus block and up to 50% when we do a subclavian perivascular supraclavicular approach. Ultrasound, I'll just take 1 minute. Ultrasound does have an advantage because we see exactly where we are going, and therefore we may end up using lesser volume deposited at the proper place. And people say that if you use up to 10 ml or 12 ml, then the chances of hemidiaphragmatic paralysis is practically none. But then I doubt whether we can produce surgical anesthesia using that kind of volume. It can definitely give you a good post-op analgesia. The other is vascular injection, so far so well elucidated by Dr. Bala. Again, ultrasound has an advantage because we know where we are injecting. Pneumothorax ultrasound has proven to be, again, of big advantage because the incidence of pneumothorax has dropped from 6% to less than 0.1%. Neuraxial block, that can happen. That happened with me when, in good old days, when we used to do it blind. Patient nearly died. But then with ultrasound, we can know that we have to go very superficially. We have to stay away from the neuraxial plexus. So the advantages are that we know exactly where we are going. We can reduce the number of passes. It can be less traumatic to the patient. And the onset is faster. The local anesthetic volume is lesser. Quality is better. And the success rate is obviously better. However, it's not the panacea. It's not that we don't get to have nerve injury or intravascular injection. They still happen, but at much lower rates. So the technical challenges are there, like when there is a lot of edema or subcutaneous air, we can tend to get lost. And of course, there's a learning curve involved. Thank you very much for your kind attention.